The end of Hassan Kanafani. Is this not a conversation between the sword and the neck? This bone flower elegy, this man who found his work on the road and lay down with it dead on the road, this peace, which is not peace, but the neck after the sword, the bomb after blowing out all the windows of Hassan Kanafani's house, this blood in the driveway, his niece dead too, and his son, banging his head against the house wall, the bone of his father, the ash gathering in his hair. Is grief not a conversation between a house and a head? This liberation still on the road, this man whose sorrow speaks of willingly, who leaves his coffin on the road below the smoke over the sick moon. We have finally arrived at the end of the poem. The moon sick. Kanafani standing at its edge, asking me, what are you loyal to other than death? Envoy. What are you loyal to other than death? To you, the dead, and what is not dead in your death. And what is not dead in your death? The children at the gates of the city asking us to break the city, to let the leopard in, and the horse, and the oak, and the grain of wheat, to tear the sky with its abundance. And when the bomb hidden in the basement of a church explodes, to weep and gnash and let the 4 dead girls who've been driven in and out of the poem by history and a bomb in the basement of a church, to haunt the plate of the nation, to travel in the husk and ears of corn going to market, to sit on the senators' plates, to hear in the corn taloned at the end of their forks, the girls, to feel in the kernels digging into their gums, the girls, to know the food in their mouths is the death of things. Life is at every window. It is what rots the senator's teeth.
The newspaper nominated a white man who had had no experience in South Asia to lead their bureau. He had been famously held hostage for 4 hours in Africa, a generic, all-encompassing Africa, the Africa he hungered for. Perhaps the hunger began when he visited as a college student, igniting an archaic impulse to plunder the heart of darkness for a Pulitzer you nominate yourself for a book about love. The bureau was called Oriental Wonders in Today's World. 6 years ago, the journalist published a series of articles about the hunt of a man-eater. Tigers apparently like Calvin Klein's obsession. Tigers like the flesh of people who eat many spices like ginger. Tigers are encroaching. They're too much. They're everywhere. Tiger hunting, a royal coming-of-age ritual transformed into a colonial pastime. It's synonymous with Jim Corbett in India, Scott, who killed many man-eaters. Even Corbett, who remains hugely popular in hunting forums, urged hunters to put down the rifle and pick up a camera, not just because of how much cheaper it was and the dwindling tiger population, but that a photograph could be a living record. The journalist writes about the untouched Andaman and Nicobar Islands, whose tribes might have migrated from Africa tens of thousands of years ago and today have been decimated by touch and videotaped in what they call jungle safaris. The journalist is frustrated that he is not allowed to photograph a Jarava man. He describes seeing the hunting party with bow and arrow carrying freshly slaughtered wild boars slung across their backs when he drove down a jungle road. This intrepid white man stared at them, and the Jaravas stared back. The moment lasted maybe 2 seconds, but he'll never forget it. What is lost in Berger's abyss of non-comprehension to the journalist who boasts of traveling across 80 countries, half of his life overseas by any means necessary, helicopter, horse, donkey cart, plow, steam train, tandem bike, and dugout canoe? What does a journalist want to know? The newspaper had reported 91 times that the Bolsheviks were collapsing between 1917 and 1920. The Moscow bureau chief denied the famine in Ukraine in the 1930s. Between 1936 and 1945, the newspaper published around 23,000 front-page stories. Only 26 were about the Holocaust. I find the now debunked newspaper article on systemic violence in the supposed war. The testimony was filled in, images invented. Even the dead woman's family revolted against the characterization. The furor focused on the second and third bylines. People with little to no journalism background. Guess who the lead reporter was? How do colonialism, extraction, and the economies of desire and dispossession collide? If a tiger exudes power, does killing it mean you absorb that ferocity? Is a tiger bone the boner giver? Is the killing of a beast 5 times your weight the stuff of life? Is killing taming? No matter, tigers can't read, but liberals do. The journalist is a soft puppet, animated in the pursuit of tradition, but the puppet has fangs. But how I have loved to spend time with tigers on my mind, but how I have excavated myself for this, but how learned helplessness is one step from nihilism, but how we must resist the allure of cynicism, but how silence can be active, but fuck all these people, man, but hope for our futures and trust in our peers, but down with saviors, Palestine will be free, so will Kashmir, the U.S. will not save anything, not even itself, American poets will not save anything but maybe themselves, we will not save anything, my lists go on and my sins do too, colonialism will wither away as the colonized free themselves, as our oceans swell, as air grows thick with black. They who put us here have no say. Everything will make a comeback, I am sure of it. Tigers will roar, rather chuff. They'll chuff across the range of their territories. You might see a tiger from the corner of your eye, but only if you're not really looking. The killing of a tiger will be no small thing.
I was polishing my animal mirror. No moths appeared there in the single crystal genetic light. In the dark mirror candle night. I was polishing my animal mirror, examining my animal teeth. A snake appeared in the mirror's thin gravel driveway. Someone had run over, had flattened it into permanent S shape. In the animal mirror, my incisors were not fangs, but surely they could still tear meat. Yes, the cat. Yes, the bear. I was polishing my animal mirror, practicing non-invasive knowing and wondering about control. The magic magic skin of this animal mirror.
Don't worry, that's just me.
You say to yourself, shining like a violet ground beetle under a stone. Sea stars are near vertebrates, over to the left. Coelacanths on the far side. riding toward you, and birds. Reptilian branch of flame on the plain. In the animal mirror, mollusks are inching toward earthworms who, touching themselves, touch earth anew. Each time they move.
You have to use the telepathy machine. Feelings as artifacts. You have to use a channel, O, for the ancestor to pass through. Yawn her up from the white space. In alphanumeric names, their cambered Arabic numerals. A Semitic pneumatic. A Newman. One, the one that is you listening. One always thought one would die at night. Nicht, noche, Nacht.
Except me. I'm what you call a local.
What does that say? I can't even read the signs. Club second line blues bar, jazz, blues, and R&B. Very cool. Come on, let's just walk. Hey, you keep getting. Okay, nice T-shirt, huh? Get out of my way.
Appall. Verb, to grow pale. Pall, noun. Perhaps from pellis, skin. Altar cloth, coffin cover. Cover your mouth, your open mouth. Put your phone in the air. Videos of the body wrapped in cloth, under cloth. Shireen Abu Akleh. Under flowers, over shoulders, repetitiousness of corpses, processions, wailing, public mourning, phones in the air, hand-covered mouths. Emerge the information out of the sound. Emerge the sound out of the child. Emerge the child out of the miracle. Emerge the miracle out of the burning car. Emerge the burning car out of music. Emerge music out of sleep. The sleep out of the throat out of the possibility. Butterfly swarm in the radar system. No service in the interior. Nuclear waste storage site miles underground. Flowers genetically modified to present information to future people. 3,000 years ahead. Warning flowers.
am served memory for breakfast. Inside the dream, I shall have to unlearn the bitterness of the war-hungry capitalist life. The empty meanings of the lobbying firm. The language that turns me cruel and useful. In the dream, I am required only by my lovers. Never the extractive drills of the oil eaters. I have been unmade by the dream of God. I have been released from meaning. The sun burns new meaning onto my skin. I am crisp with newness. The dream vomits up the sludge of abandonment, swimming in the sludge is a McKinsey consultant. Swimming in the sludge is Arthur Balfour. They drown. I am the love of the dream embodied. I willingly dissolve my bitter attachments. The dream is a futurism of the spirit. The spirit is an orality. The sludge is a State Department. My memory returns me to the great earth dream. Palestine is a dream of the future. Future is a Palestine of the
The human is the talking animal. The human is the thinking animal. The human is the walking upright animal. The human is the burying animal.
My name is Edward Salem, and I'll be reading a few poems. The first one is called Won't Visit. I don't know much about Jerusalem, beside my walks in it. I know my wife's Jewish parents are scared to visit, and I know a Muslim mother begs with her legless son, whose stubs dangle from his wheelchair, on the Patna steps inside Damascus Gate. Though I may be mistaking them for the duo at Kalendia checkpoint, putting out their upturned hands for Janice and Rob, who won't visit, won't fill those hands with a few shekels, won't sit thigh to thigh with Arabs in services to meet their daughter and me at a literary festival where we wait 2 hours for Taha Muhammad Ali to take the stage, but it doesn't happen. And the half-British son of an aristocrat trying to cauterize the bleeding coming from the spurned audience ekes out a composed apology for the poet who probably never left his home in Nasra, who was probably watching TV. We're told he's eccentric, but to the crowd, it isn't charming, nor to Janice and Rob, for whom the no-show might have confirmed something about me, my unreliability, my lower-class lack of respect for people's time. Or this probably isn't fair of me to anybody, because in 10 years, in December in Pittsburgh, after spending a month between a hotel and their dark brick house across from the car museum while their youngest daughter is in hospice, I'll prove their theoretical suspicions true when, for my own eccentric reasons, I'm a no-show at her funeral, where the rabbi pronounces the name of the city I don't know so well, but which means so much to me, Yerushalayim. This next poem is called Prop Comedian. Hope L. crawling in the street in a Superman suit for 22 miles over 9 years. Or MPA holding a plaster cast sculpture of her father's fist in the sunlight during gallery hours. Or the hairy, naked, upside down Austrians of gelatin sticking lit candles in their assholes. To God is the same as the Israeli soldier parading around in the red lingerie he found in a bombed house in Gaza. To God, the new Nekba is a watermelon smashed with a sledgehammer in her schlocky comedy act. This next poem is called Fullness. Behind eternity isn't more eternity. Nothing lies in wait. Maybe you think of it as a vacuum, a void at the center of the universe, a dot that went all ways at once, an asterisk, footnote to everything. Nothing is the Godhead that gobbles the world in one fell swoop, but has no anus. Hypnic jerk. You dream you're falling to your death. Your body jerks. You're scared awake. This happens night after night, eon after eon. Big bangs blow up. Thumb on a detonator. Nothing, all. Nothing, all. This next poem is called Knowledge and Liberation. Visual artists know more than musicians. Writers know more than visual artists. Philosophers know more than writers. Quantum physicists know more than philosophers. Vedantists know more than quantum physicists. Vedantists know nothing. This next poem is called Elsewhere. I laughed at the phrase you used, emptied yourself. I thought, it's true, there's nothing left. I didn't remember how many drinks I'd had as I poured another. Who cares? I whispered to myself, thinking on our day together, how glad I was it was over. Earlier, 4 men walking toward the border were vaporized by a drone that hovered haltingly like a buzzing bumblebee before the stigma of a flower.
Good evening. My name is Priscilla Wathington. I am a Palestinian American poet living in California. I just want to begin by saying thank you to Steve and to Lindsay for organizing this segment, and to all the organizers of this reading. Thank you for your efforts to just continue bringing Gaza forward and putting it on everybody's lips and hearts. And thank you for reminding us of what a large collective we are. This first poem I'm going to read is by the poet from Gaza, Yahya Ashur, and the poem is called A Gray Man from a Gray Land. I go to the sea by myself, a gray man from a gray land. No jasmine in my pocket to gift it to the beach. I go to the cinema of the sky for a delayed prayer, for a childhood still lost. I go looking for those who go to the sea by themselves. But there, I freeze on my chair. I don't dare to walk side by side with all of these waves. There, I freeze on my chair. Nothing else a gray man like me can do in front of all this blue. And this poem is by me. It's from my chapbook, Paper and Stick. It's called Silicon Wadi. Sore to the eye are we, rough-hewn along the forehead, industry of calf and car parts. Of pajama, the kind you wear in a house of kerosene by day, hot water bottle by night. Of a hankering for rose water and sheep intestines. When we bring Tel Aviv home, it's in our shirts, free ketchup packets, rocks for the taboon, a laugh too large for the permission granted. Of brown bag bizzit on the bus we spit, fallahin after 2 generations of trousers, our grandmother's hair, the orange of kenafe. Of vegetable soap that still slides around the squatting bathroom shower. Of a town disappearing into a theory of silicon in a dried out valley. Of a tap wiped with bleach just this hour, a bucket perfectly positioned for a doctrine of pipes. This next one is called Docuverse. Tool of every empire, paper and stick, that orchestrates what can, in what bar, and rest with what voice, strength of air, will we deliver our parts? How monumental our finish. This next one is called This Document Has No Legal Status and is not bound by its contents. It's a poem that has 2 voices. One of them is mine, and the other voice is a sort of documentary voice drawn from a military order that was allowing for the expropriation of land in the West Bank for settlement use. This document has no legal status and is not bound by its content. A law for the regulation of land in Judea and Samaria. If our conditions, settlements were built in good faith, immutable, we approach checkpoint 300. Sun, to what planet? With the consent of the state. If I give you my name, provides for registration of land ownership, the name of a bell in a church that is now another church, where ownership has not otherwise been established. Did I drink from your porridge of cement, a fossil in an underground railway? Additionally, it provides for the expropriation. I laughed. True. The joke cannot survive its translation. Rights of use and possession. In your Hadassah, my elbow closed by suture. The region is achieved, unmedicated, my own expropriated hand. Thank you so much. Please continue whatever you can do. Please keep going. Free Palestine.
Our next poet is Omar Zaza, writer, poet, freelance journalist, assistant professor of Arab Muslim ethnicities and diasporas, Ahmed Studies in the Department of Race and Resistance Studies at San Francisco State University. A scholar activist of Lebanese Palestinian descent, Dr. Zaza is the former education and advocacy coordinator of Eyewitness Palestine. Omar's book, Terms of Servitude, Zionism, Silicon Valley, and Digital Settler Colonialism in the Palestinian Liberation Struggle, is coming out next year from the Censored Press in partnership with Seven Stories Press. Omar Zaza.
Hello, everyone. My name is Omar Zaza, and I'll be reading a few poems tonight for you for the Global Reading for Freedom of Expression and in solidarity with Palestine and Lebanon. And thank you so much to the organizers for the privilege of being able to be here with you in some disembodied digital capacity. And apologies for the lighting. And I know you can probably see the glare on my glasses pretty well, but it's what we got, so let's go with it. So the first piece I'm going to be reading for you is a poem called do you condemn Hamas? Do you know the weight of 75 years worth of bones, villages, and homes? The sound of olive trees screaming through flames? Do you confuse prison break with apocalypse, genocide with self-defense? Or do you know what it means to yearn for the sea? The next one that I'll do for you is a piece that was published in the experimental issue of Misna, and it's called How to Talk to White People Who Are Seeing Your People in the News More and Feel Really, Really Bad. Show them the scar, we all have one, and demonstrate how the stitches kept the folds from screaming. Take their hand and gently let them press upon where they stitched once too. Explain how your body has limned the invisible parentheses, stacking colonialism into coexistence. Ask, finally, if they would really never take up arms, or if it's just the thought of you doing so, rather than being agreeably murdered, that gives their hand in yours such tremors. The next poem I'll read for you is forthcoming in an anthology of global Anglophone Palestinian poetry that will be released in spring 2025 by Haymarket Books. And it's co-edited by Palestinian American poets George Abraham and Noor Hindi. So this is called Poem Joins the Resistance. Poem joins the resistance. A poem has nothing to lose. A poem is the best shot. A poem smokes too many cigarettes. A poem looks directly at the sun. A poem breeds return. A poem births poet armies. A poem sweats defiance. A poem hijacks consciousness. A poem takes no prisoners. A poem frees the people. A poem won't take it easy. A poem frees the land. A poem won't just a minute. A poem meets apartheid walls and shits on genocide's finery. A poem is done with dialogue. And the last one I'll do for you tonight is a piece called How to Write for the New York Times. And it begins with an epigraph by the Palestinian poet Muhammad al-Kurd. And that quote goes, "I would like to see the New York Times, first of all, going to the sink and washing the blood from their hands." How to write for the New York Times. Abandon cause for effect. Forget that nuance can be a euphemism for euphemism. Trade integrity for the passive voice. Don't ask who used to own your Jerusalem property. Believe there is a middle to everything, even war. Convince yourself propaganda is just a slur used by ultra-left college brats. Torture sentences like the occupation forces torture Palestinians. Tell yourself you don't believe in ghosts. It won't stop the hauntings, but it will help somewhat. Thank you.
That was Omar Zaza, and we would like to close by turning to this book, Ibrahim Nasrallah's 4 poems, a little book called Palestinian, translated by Huda Fakhreddin, came out from World Poetry Books very recently, within the past month or so. Ghazal Mossadegh, at the start of this 24 hours, read the title poem called Palestinian. I'm going to read just from the afterword, which is a conversation between translator and poet Huda Fakhreddin and Ibrahim Nasrallah. This is Nasrallah. A video could never document what a young girl or boy living in Gaza can document with their mobile phone. But the importance of literature remains that it can say what the mobile phone cannot say, what its owner cannot say, and what we as viewers cannot say when we watch images on screens. We can say it when we write it. We will understand things better when we sit down to write about them. Our understanding of them will deepen, and so will our sadness, for writing is to live or relive what saddened us, delighted us, or worried us indirectly or from a distance. My insistence on the visual image perhaps reflects my vision of what is happening. It is an insistence on Palestinian visibility, a coming out from darkness into light, the light we will reach despite everything. It is an insistence on the idea that we are unerasable. Every time they try to erase us, we become clearer. Look at the world that was blind to us before and how it sees us now. The student movement in solidarity with Gaza and Palestine around the world is a great thing, as great as a miracle. That's June 2024, Ibrahim Nasrallah. Thank you to all the organizers, all the poets, everyone, and please, solidarity, free Palestine. We'll give you now to people who are in Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Free Palestine.